Perimenopause brain fog is real. It is not anxiety, it is not stress, and it's definitely not just getting older. It's one of the symptoms that I see affecting my patients the most. Your brain is literally running on less estrogen than it used to. And today I'm giving you 6 strategies that will help you get your clarity back. In this video, I want to talk about brain fog in a way that is practical, not vague reassurance, and not pretending that there is one magic supplement that will just make it go away. I'm going to walk through cognitive strategies that help, because they reduce the load on your brain in real life. Brain fog is not just about memory, it is also about fatigue, task switching, sleep and mood. And of course, the fact that as midlife women, we are often carrying a ridiculous amount in our heads. So the aim is not to force your brain to work harder, it's to build a system that asks your brain to do less at once. I'm going to walk you through each of these strategies, and most importantly, stay tuned to the end when we'll bring it all together and I'll show you how you can personalize your approach. If you like to jump around the video, there are timestamps in the description below. Now let's get to it. When people say brain fog, they often mean a mixture of things. It could be forgetting things, slowed thinking, poor concentration, being more easily overwhelmed, making mistakes when interrupted, or just needing a bit more effort to do things that used to feel easy. And in perimenopause, that can feel particularly disorientating because it also appears at the same time as poor sleep, heavier bleeding, mood changes, vasomotor symptoms like hot flushes and night sweats, and your usual resilience is not necessarily there. But there's an important thing I want you to know, and that's that brain fog is not cognitive decline and it can't be captured by a short memory test. A person can perform normally in a quiet, structured environment and still really struggle in day-to-day life because daily life is not structured and quiet. Daily life is multitasking, it's children asking you lots of questions, it's deadlines, it's poor sleep, it's emotional load, and a brain full of open tabs. So in order to tackle it properly, we shouldn't be asking, how do I improve my memory? Or why is my memory bad? But rather, where is my brain fog actually disrupting my life? Is it at home? Is it at work? Is it following conversations? And that's our starting point. Once you know where brain fog is affecting you the most, you can stop trying random fixes and start designing supports around the failure points. And that brings me to my first strategy, which sounds basic, but it's probably the one that changes the most. When you have brain fog, trying to remember things internally becomes very costly. You might be trying to hold in your head a school form, the thing you need to buy, an appointment, a birthday gift, a work deadline, all of these things. And then you feel like you're failing because you dropped something. But that's not a personal failure. That is a system failure. Your brain is just not meant to be the place where every tiny intention lives. So the first strategy is to create one trusted capture system, not 5 different apps, not WhatsApp messages to yourself, just one place. This could be a physical notebook, it could be the Notes app, it could be a planner, it could be a whiteboard in your main living space. The tool doesn't matter, the consistency matters. The rule is, if something matters, it goes into the system. This is not an organizational or productivity hack. This is you trying to stop relying on working memory when your working memory is already fried. The practical method becomes capture, clarify, schedule, review. In simple terms, this is get the thought out of your head, capture it. So writing down, book the dentist, or reply to the important work email. What is the next step? Clarify. And this is something specific, not just sort school stuff. If it is time sensitive, schedule it, put it in the calendar. If it doesn't have a time, it goes on a list for reviewing. And then once a day, when it works for you, whether that's the beginning or the end of the day, spend 5 minutes reviewing the system. The daily review is an important bit that most people miss. Without the review, it just becomes another system or a graveyard of good intentions. To give you an example, if you keep forgetting small things after conversations that you're supposed to do, don't rely on, I'll remember that later. Write it down in the system, put a calendar event in or a task, and then a specific next action. That will help to trigger you and to prevent anything slipping through the cracks. The goal is not to remember more. The goal is to need to remember less. But even with a good system, brain fog gets much worse when you are constantly task switching. So the next strategy is about protecting your attention. One of the most draining things for a foggy perimenopausal brain is switching. This looks like writing an email, your phone pings with a message, then you hear that the washing machine has finished and you need to put the laundry on. Each one of these is a tab in your brain. Then you go back to the email that you were writing and you think, oh, what was I going to write? That moment can feel difficult, almost like memory loss or fogginess, but often it's just attention being pulled in too many different directions. Perimenopause brain fog often feels worse because there are multiple inputs at once. It's all of the noise of modern life. It's several different people, maybe little people, needing different things. A list of half-finished tasks in your head. So one of the most effective strategies is not glamorous. It's just to reduce the number of context switches your brain has to make. This looks like batching. Choose 2 or 3 windows in the day for specific things. That might be email with your morning coffee, WhatsApp, a specific time to do admin, a specific time to do small household tasks. For me, I do messages and admin mid-morning about 11 a.m. I do the school work sort of home catch-up time, and then in the evening I review everything to make sure that nothing's getting missed. Outside those windows, unless something is genuinely urgent, it gets captured and dealt with later. At first, this might feel uncomfortable because many of us are used to being constantly available. But constant availability is not neutral. It has a cognitive cost. So when you are doing something that matters, make that current task visible. If you're struggling with this at first, another strategy to help you single stream is to make the current task visible. Write it on a sticky note, finish email to payroll, book blood test. It sounds almost too simple, but a visible task queue helps bring you back when your attention drifts or gets taken away by something else, and helps to remove competing cues. It helps to close the extra tabs. It sounds almost too simple, but a visible task queue helps to bring you back when your attention drifts. Also, remove competing cues. Close the extra tabs on your laptop. Put your phone face down in another room. Turn off non-essential notifications. If you're in a noisy place, use headphones. Then set a timer for 20 to 30 minutes. This is not you trying to create a perfect productivity routine. This is reducing friction so you can get stuff done. It's stop making your concentration fight 10 things at once. And there's another layer, because brain fog is not just about external chaos. It's also about recognizing when your brain starts to drift before the task falls apart. And there's a strategy for this. The third strategy is using a goal, plan, do method. This is where we move from compensating for brain fog to actually working with your brain more deliberately. A lot of brain fog problems happen when we start a task vaguely, but a foggy brain does not do well with vague. It needs a smaller, specific target. So before a task, use this 4-step method. Ask, what does success look like for this task? This is not sort finances. Very general. This is more like pay the nursery invoice or pay the tax. Find the latest document and send it. Then write down a maximum of 3 steps in order to get this done. Open email, find invoice, pay the invoice. Ask yourself, where is this likely to go wrong? That question is useful because if you're anything like me, you're probably going to get distracted looking through your emails. Maybe you can't find the password. Maybe your banking app doesn't work and you'll get distracted by something, maybe forget what you're doing. But if you identify where it might be going wrong, you can build in a support. Then do the first step only, not the whole life overhaul, just the first step. If you need to use a timer, use a timer. And then review. At the end, ask, did this work? What worked? Where did I drift off? Where was I not able to stay focused? What was catching my attention? What would make this easier next time? It's not about criticizing yourself. It's about learning your patterns so that you can make things easier on yourself and reduce that cognitive load. If you realize you always lose track when there are several versions of a document, the solution might be to do the task before opening your mailbox. Because we can make our brain fog easier to manage when we think about it in a task-based sense. And the next strategy, we're taking things outside of the brain, outside of the task, and focusing on something that's really important. Because when your brain is foggy, your environment is also vital. If everything is hidden, inconsistent, cluttered, or dependent on memory, You are just going to burn mental energy, finding things and deciding what to do next. So the strategy is making your environment carry some of that cognitive load. I'm not talking about having a perfect minimalist home. I'm a mum of 3 and I am not going to pretend. I mean, if you looked behind the camera, you would see that I do not have a perfect minimalist home. But this is about small targeted changes that reduce the repeated friction. So for example, having one place near the door for keys, another place for the wallet, maybe you hang your keys up by the door, maybe all the school items are in a basket at the bottom of the stairs. If necessary, you can also add a small checklist for chaotic mornings. Put the reminders and the items or the places, their home, where the action happens. So, like I said, keys, phone, work badge by the front door. This may sound basic, but visual cues reduce reliance on memory. And reducing reliance on memory is reducing cognitive load. This reduces all the tiny little searches that slowly drain your attention and your energy. But even with these environmental systems and cues, there's a point where you need to think about energy specifically, because brain fog gets worse when we ignore fatigue. And the next strategy is about pacing your brain. And I'm not talking about pacing in a physical way to manage physical fatigue. I'm talking about cognitive pacing. Many women will notice that their brain fog is not the same throughout the day. For many, mornings are better. For some, evenings are better. Maybe after you've had a bad night's sleep, it's particularly worse. It might also be worse, for example, in the second half of your cycle. So instead of treating your brain as it should perform the same at all times, notice your personal patterns and work from there. Ask yourself, what's the clearest part of my day? When do I make the most mistakes? What kind of tasks drain me and what kind of tasks do I find quite straightforward? Then match the task demand to the brain energy that you have at that point. High focus work goes in when your brain is more available. Do your admin in batches. Avoid making important decisions when you're depleted if you can. And after you've done cognitively demanding tasks, build in short recovery breaks. Obviously, this is not always fully possible. Work, parenting, and life in general don't fit in neatly to our intended schedules or our hormonal fluctuations, but even small adjustments will help. For example, you might do a 20 to 30 minute focus work block and then build in a 3 to 5 minute reset for the brain. Before you do that reset, write down the next step. And then when you go back to it, return to that next step. The key is writing down the step before you stop, because sometimes the foggy moments happen when you can't remember where you left off. This is not just managing your time, this is managing cognitive energy alongside everything else. The best brain fog strategy is not the one that looks the most scientific necessarily, although evidence is important. It is the one that improves your real life. And this brings me to my final and possibly one of the most important strategies, in my opinion. And this is tracking the right things. There is a saying that I like, what you track, you can treat. And I don't mean in a way that's going to give you another thing to do that you can potentially fail at. Just keep it very simple. Once a week, note 4 things down. The severity of your symptoms, the quality of your sleep, where you are in terms of your cycle or hormonal impacts if it's relevant to you, and the functional impact. The last one is really important. Don't write 1, brain fog 7 out of 10. Write specific things like, I forgot 2 things at this point. I struggled with word finding. Writing down specifics helps you to notice patterns. If necessary, this can also help you if you need to discuss things with your doctor. But it can also help you judge whether a strategy is actually working for you. This is not tracking to become obsessive. This is tracking to, again, stop relying on memory to explain a memory problem and to start building your personalized plan to enhance your well-being and functional capacity. This is to give you a clearer picture of what is actually happening for you, because we are all different people. Next, we're going to bring it together and form your personalized plan that works with your life, not against it. If you like this kind of realistic, evidence-aware approach to midlife health, click subscribe so you can be notified as I make more videos on midlife women's health to make this the best phase of your life yet. Okay, with that said, let's bring everything together. And I understand if all of this sounds like a lot, but start simple. Don't try to overhaul your whole life and implement everything. For the next week, choose 3 things. 1, capture system. Everything important goes in one place. 2, a daily review. 5 minutes a day, review your top 3 priorities. And the third one is 1 reduced switching block, a 20 to 30 minute block where you do one thing and make that task visible. That's enough to start. Once that feels normal, or if it's working for you, you can add the other things in. Think about environmental cues, add more in as you feel able. You don't beat brain fog by adding 10 complicated habits to an already overloaded life. You beat it by removing unnecessary cognitive load. The aim is not to get your old brain back overnight. That will happen. Brain fog in perimenopause can feel really personal and can make you question your competence, your confidence, your reliability, and even your identity, especially if you've been a high-functioning person who typically remembers everything, is very organized, and keeps life moving. But I think the most helpful approach is to proceed not with shame or panic, but with strategy. The goal is not to pretend brain fog is not happening. The goal is to build support that lets you function better while you work out what your brain and body need in this phase of life. I'm sorry, my baby is crying. You're not failing because you need systems. The systems are there to stop brain fog running the day. If you like this video and you're wondering what supplements might support you in this perimenopause midlife phase of life, I have a video on that which I will link at the end, going through the basic stack, and I'll see you in the next one.